Hello, and welcome to Daily English Learn. I'm Eva, and I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Mark. Mark, how are you feeling today?
I'm fantastic, Eva. I had this really strange thought this morning while I was making tea. I was thinking about all the people who tell me they want to improve their English, but then months pass and nothing changes. And I started wondering, what makes the difference between someone who actually transforms their English skills and someone who stays in the same place year after year?
Oh, that's such an important question. And you know what? I think most people don't realize that learning English and changing your life are connected in ways we don't talk about enough. Because when you learn to speak English confidently, you're not just learning words. You're actually training your brain to think differently, to overcome fear, and to take small actions every single day.
Exactly. So today, we're talking about something deeper than grammar or vocabulary. We're talking about why people feel stuck, what stops them from making progress, and how the exact same principles that help you learn English can help you improve every part of your life.
And by the end of this conversation, you're going to understand three powerful ideas. First, why waiting for the perfect moment is killing your progress. Second, how to use something called the 1% method to become amazing at English. And third, why the people around you might be the biggest reason you're not improving.
But before we go any further, let me ask you something, Eva. When you first started teaching English, did you ever meet students who seemed really motivated at first, but then just disappeared?
Oh, all the time. And when I would ask them later what happened, they would always say the same things. They'd say, I was too busy, or I didn't have time, or I'll start again when things calm down. But the truth is, those were just excuses, covering up the real problem.
And what was the real problem?
Fear. Pure fear. They were afraid of making mistakes. They were afraid of sounding stupid. They were afraid that even if they tried really hard, they still wouldn't become fluent. So instead of facing that fear, they just stopped trying.
That's so true. I remember when I was learning Hindi. I lived in Delhi for 2 years, and I was surrounded by Hindi speakers every single day. But I was so terrified of saying something wrong that I would just stay quiet. I would smile and nod, but I wouldn't speak. And you know what happened? After 2 years, my Hindi was still terrible because I never practiced.
And that's the first big lesson we need to understand. Fear doesn't protect you. Fear keeps you stuck. When you avoid speaking English because you're afraid, you're not being careful, you're blocking yourself from the only thing that will actually make you better, which is practice.
So let's talk about this honestly. If you're listening right now and you've been studying English for months or even years, but you still can't have a simple conversation, I want you to ask yourself, are you actually practicing or are you just preparing? Because there's a huge difference.
Yes, preparing means you're watching videos, you're reading books, you're downloading apps, but practicing means you're actually opening your mouth and speaking. Even when it feels uncomfortable, even when you make mistakes, even when your pronunciation isn't perfect.
And here's something most people don't realize. Your brain doesn't learn English by understanding the rules. Your brain learns English by doing the action over and over again until it becomes automatic. It's like learning to ride a bicycle. You can watch 100 videos about how to balance on a bike, but until you actually get on that bike and fall down a few times, you'll never really learn.
That's such a perfect comparison. And this connects to something really important called the growth mindset. Have you heard about this concept, Mark?
Yes, it's the idea that your abilities aren't fixed. You're not born as a language person or not a language person. You can develop any skill if you approach it the right way.
Exactly. So many students tell me, English is just too hard for me. I'm not smart enough. I don't have the language gene. But that's completely wrong. The only difference between someone who becomes fluent and someone who stays stuck is what they believe about themselves.
And this isn't just positive thinking or motivation talk. This is actually how your brain works. There's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system. It's like a filter that decides what information is important and what gets ignored.
Right. So if you keep telling yourself, I'm bad at English, I can't speak, I'll never improve, then your brain will start looking for evidence that proves you're right. You'll notice every mistake you make. You'll focus on every word you don't know, and you'll feel more and more discouraged.
But if you change what you tell yourself, if you start saying, I'm improving every day, every conversation makes me better, mistakes help me learn, then your brain will start noticing your progress instead of your failures.
And I want to be very clear about something. This doesn't mean lying to yourself. This doesn't mean pretending you're fluent when you're not. It means focusing on the truth that you are capable of improvement, and every small step forward is real progress.
So let's get practical here. How do you actually change your mindset? What can someone do today, right now, to start thinking differently about their English learning?
Well, one very simple technique is what I call the daily evidence journal. Every night before you go to sleep, you write down 3 things in English that you did better today than yesterday. Maybe you understood a sentence in a movie. Maybe you learned one new word and used it in a sentence. Maybe you spoke English for 5 minutes without translating in your head.
I love that because it trains your brain to look for improvement instead of mistakes, and over time you start to see yourself as someone who is actively getting better.
Exactly. And this brings us to the second big idea, the power of tiny improvements. Mark, tell them about the 1% rule.
Okay, so imagine you improve your English by just 1% every single day. That doesn't sound like much, right? 1% is almost nothing. But here's the amazing part. If you improve by 1% every day for 1 year, you won't be 365% better. You'll be 37 times better than when you started.
Wait, can you explain why that happens? Because that sounds almost impossible.
It's because of something called compound growth. Each day's improvement builds on top of yesterday's improvement. So you're not just adding 1%, you're multiplying. It's like interest in a bank account. A small amount of money grows faster and faster over time because the interest earns more interest.
So, what does 1% improvement look like in English learning?
Well, it could be learning 2 new words today instead of 0. It could be speaking English out loud for 5 minutes instead of staying silent. It could be watching one scene from a TV show in English instead of scrolling on social media.
These are such small actions that anyone can do them. You don't need 2 hours of free time. You don't need a perfect study plan. You just need to do something small today, and then do it again tomorrow.
And here's what most people get wrong. They think, oh, just 2 words? That's nothing. That won't make me fluent. But they're completely missing the point. Those 2 words today become 4 words next week, become 10 words next month, become hundreds of words by the end of the year.
And more importantly, you're building a habit. You're training your brain to see English learning as something you do every day, not something you do when you feel motivated.
Oh, that's such an important point. Eva, can you talk about motivation versus discipline? Because I think this confuses so many people.
Yes, so many students tell me, I'll start practicing English when I feel motivated. I'll wait until I'm excited about it. But here's the truth. Motivation is just an emotion. It comes and goes. Some days you wake up feeling motivated and some days you don't.
Right, but discipline is different. Discipline means you do the action whether you feel like it or not.
Exactly. And here's the secret that changed everything for me. Motivation doesn't come before action. Motivation comes after action. When you start doing something, even when you don't feel like it, the motivation appears while you're working.
I've experienced this so many times. I'll think, I really don't want to practice speaking today, but then I force myself to speak for just 2 minutes, and suddenly I get into it, and I keep going for 20 minutes.
Yes, because once you start, your brain gets engaged. You remember why this matters to you. You start feeling good about making progress. But if you wait to feel motivated first, you might wait forever.
So the message here is very clear. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for motivation. Just take one tiny action today.
And I want to give everyone listening a very specific challenge right now. After this episode ends, I want you to speak one English sentence out loud. Just one sentence about anything. It could be, I am listening to Daily English Learn podcast. It could be, today is Tuesday and the weather is nice. It doesn't matter what the sentence is. Just speak it out loud.
That's brilliant, because that one sentence breaks the barrier between thinking about English and actually using English. And once you break that barrier today, it becomes easier to break it again tomorrow.
Exactly. Now, Mark, we've talked about mindset and small daily actions, but there's a third element that most people completely ignore, and it might be the most powerful one.
What's that?
Your environment, the people you spend time with, the content you consume, the physical space where you study. All of these things are either helping you or hurting you, and most people don't even realize it.
Oh, this is so true. There's this famous idea that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you're surrounded by people who don't care about learning, who make fun of self-improvement, who tell you English is too hard or you don't need it, then it becomes almost impossible to stay motivated.
Right, but if you surround yourself with people who are also learning, who encourage you, who celebrate your progress, then improvement becomes natural and easy.
So, what should someone do if they don't have English-speaking friends in real life? How can they create that supportive environment?
Well, this is where the internet becomes incredibly powerful. You can join online communities of English learners. You can follow inspiring teachers on social media. You can listen to podcasts like this one every day. You're basically programming your environment to support your goals.
And just as important as adding positive influences is removing negative ones. If you're constantly watching content in your native language, if you're spending hours with people who drain your energy, if your phone is full of distracting apps, then you're making it harder for yourself to improve.
So here's another practical tip. Take 5 minutes today and look at your phone. What apps do you open most often? What content are you consuming? Is it helping you learn English or preventing you from learning English?
And if it's not helping, delete it or limit it. Replace it with something useful. Instead of scrolling social media, listen to an English podcast. Instead of watching random videos, watch English content with subtitles.
These might seem like tiny changes, but remember what we said about the 1% rule. Small changes compound over time. If you spend just 10 minutes a day listening to English instead of scrolling, that's 300 minutes of English practice every month. That's massive.
Absolutely. And Eva, I think we should talk about one more thing before we finish. We've covered fear, mindset, daily habits, and environment. But I think there's one final mindset shift that people need to understand.
What's that?
The idea that done is better than perfect. So many English learners spend months trying to create the perfect study plan, trying to find the perfect course, trying to wait until they know enough grammar before they start speaking. But perfection is the enemy of progress.
Oh, yes, I see this constantly. Students will say, I'm not ready to speak yet. I need to learn more vocabulary first. But the truth is, you will never feel completely ready. There will always be words you don't know. There will always be grammar rules you haven't mastered. If you wait for perfection, you'll never start.
And here's what's ironic. The only way to become good at speaking is to speak, even when you're not good at it yet. Your first conversations will be messy. You'll make mistakes. You'll forget words. But every single one of those imperfect conversations makes you better.
So if you're listening right now and you've been waiting to feel ready, stop waiting. You're ready right now, not because you know everything, but because the learning happens through doing, not through preparing.
And I want to end with this thought. Think about 1 year from now. Imagine 2 versions of yourself. Version 1 waited for the perfect moment, waited to feel motivated, waited to feel ready. Version 2 started today with small, imperfect actions, practiced every day even when it was hard, and surrounded themselves with supportive people and content. Which version do you think speaks better English 1 year from now?
The answer is obvious. The second version is fluent, confident, and proud. The first version is still waiting, still stuck, still dreaming about someday.
So the question is, which version will you be? Because it all starts with what you decide to do today.
Remember, you don't need to change everything at once. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need to take one small step. Speak one sentence, learn one word, listen for 5 minutes. That's all.
And if you found this helpful, come back tomorrow and we'll have another conversation to help you on your English learning journey. Share this episode with one friend who's also learning English. Leave us a comment telling us what your one small action will be today.
Thank you so much for learning with us. I'm Eva, this is Mark, and we'll talk to you very soon on Daily English Learn. Keep going, keep practicing, and remember, you're getting better every single day.
See you next time.